His hands were still on my waist when I realized what I had done. My wedding ring brushed against his shoulder as he pressed me closer, and a sudden wave of guilt flooded my chest, but it was already too late. The sound of rain against the windows masked our heavy breaths, and in that dark hotel room, I had traded loyalty for a moment of pleasure. Every touch felt forbidden, every kiss a betrayal, but my body refused to stop. I had crossed the line that night, and the woman who walked into that room was not the same woman who walked out. Before I continue, I want to take a quick moment to appreciate everyone watching this story. To all my subscribers, thank you for constantly showing love and support to this channel. And to all the new viewers and returning ones who have not yet subscribed, I truly cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button right now. It serves as the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. Please do not forget to share your thoughts in the comments after this short hook intro. I read every single one of them. Now, let us begin. My name is Claire Reynolds. I am 35 years old, and until 2 years ago, I had what everyone around me called a perfect life. My husband, Ethan, was the kind of man who made people believe in forever. He worked long hours as a construction manager, and even though his hands were always rough, his love was gentle. We lived in a cozy 3-bedroom home in the suburbs of Nashville, Tennessee, with white fences, flower beds, and the kind of silence that made our neighborhood seem peaceful. But peace can sometimes be the loneliest sound in a marriage. Ethan and I met in college. We were the couple people rooted for, loyal, steady, inseparable. But marriage, as I learned, is not about the good days. It is about the days when nothing feels exciting anymore. The nights when the bed feels too big, and your partner's silence becomes louder than any argument. It began slowly. Ethan's job started demanding longer hours, and I started feeling invisible. He was still loving, still kind, but something inside me began to ache for attention, for warmth, for passion. That ache became a craving, one I could not silence. I joined a gym downtown, mostly because I wanted to focus on myself, as I told Ethan. That was where I met Liam, tall, confident, and dangerously charming. He was one of those men who carried temptation like a scent. The kind that made you feel seen even when you were trying to hide. The first time he looked at me, it was not just a look. It was an invitation. His voice carried an ease that Ethan's had lost over the years, soft, teasing, deliberate. He complimented my form, helped me adjust my posture, and made me laugh when I had not laughed in months. At first, I convinced myself it was harmless. "He's just being friendly," I said. But I knew what that flutter in my stomach meant. It started with smiles across the room, then short conversations after workouts, then coffee runs after training sessions. Every boundary I thought I had was tested and then slowly erased. I would come home late and tell Ethan I stayed longer because the gym was busy. He believed me, without question, because that was who he was, trusting, loyal, good. But Liam made me feel something I had not felt in years, wanted. Not loved, but wanted. There is a dangerous difference between the two. Love is patient, desire is urgent. Love builds, desire burns. And that burn consumed me. One Friday evening, after a particularly long workout, Liam offered to drop me off since it was raining hard. I hesitated for a moment, then said yes. The car ride was quiet at first, filled with the hum of rain against the windshield. But when he reached out and touched my hand, I did not pull away. That single touch was the beginning of the end. We ended up at a small hotel near the highway. Even now, I cannot remember exactly how it happened. The words, the movements, the unspoken permission that passed between us. All I remember is the rush, the sound of rain, his breath against my neck, the way my heart pounded with guilt and excitement all at once. When it was over, I sat at the edge of the bed, trembling. Liam tried to pull me close, but I stood up. I could still feel Ethan's trust clinging to my skin, and it made me sick. I looked at my reflection in the mirror and did not recognize the woman staring back. She looked alive, yes, but empty. I told myself it would never happen again. I promised that to my own reflection. But promises mean nothing when guilt becomes desire's twin. That night, when I got home, Ethan was asleep on the couch, the TV still on. There was a plate of dinner waiting for me on the table, covered neatly with foil. My throat tightened as I stared at it. He had waited for me. He had trusted me. I crept into our bedroom, stripped off my clothes, and stood under the shower until the water turned cold. No matter how long I stayed, I could not wash the guilt away. The next morning, Ethan kissed my forehead before heading to work and said, "You seem tired. Maybe you should rest today." His voice was filled with concern. That kindness hurt more than any punishment could have. I wished he would yell. I wished he would ask questions. I wished he would stop loving me, because that would have made it easier to hate myself less. But instead, he stayed the same. And I, the woman who had once vowed to love him faithfully, was already unraveling inside. What began as one mistake would soon become a pattern, one I could not break. I thought I had control, but the truth was, temptation had taken over. And the moment I chose pleasure over loyalty, I had already begun to lose his heart. The days that followed that night felt like walking barefoot over shattered glass. Every step I took cut deeper, but I kept walking anyway. I told myself it was just one mistake. One night of weakness that I could bury beneath normal routines. But temptation never dies quietly. It lingers in your mind, whispers in your conscience, and visits your dreams with the same hands that once set your body on fire. Ethan remained the same, steady, calm, and unaware. Every morning, he made coffee for both of us, left notes on the counter, and texted me sweet reminders throughout the day. He trusted me with a kind of innocence that made my lies feel heavier. I started noticing the small things I used to overlook, the wrinkles around his eyes, the way he smiled when he was proud of me, the quiet patience in his tone when I was moody. And every time I saw those things, I hated myself a little more. But guilt can be deceitful. It can disguise itself as denial. And mine did. I told myself it was just attraction, that it did not mean anything serious. I told myself I could control it. But when Liam's name flashed on my phone one afternoon while Ethan was sitting beside me on the couch, my heart nearly stopped. I quickly turned the screen over and mumbled something about a gym update. Ethan nodded without question. That night, I deleted our text thread, every message, every emoji, every photo. But erasing messages did not erase memories. The next day, I found myself back at the gym, even though I had promised I would stay away. Liam was there, leaning against one of the machines, waiting. When our eyes met, something inside me trembled, not with guilt this time, but with hunger. He smiled the way only men who know they have crossed your boundaries can smile, confident, calm, certain. We did not talk much that day. We did not need to. The silence between us carried enough weight to break a marriage. He touched my wrist lightly when he passed by, and I felt it for hours after. It was not love, I knew that. It was addiction. A kind of addiction that feels like oxygen when you are drowning in loneliness. Weeks turned into months. Ethan began to notice small changes, perfume that was not his gift, sudden late nights, a distant tone in my voice. I could see suspicion forming in his eyes, though he never voiced it. Instead, he tried harder. He started planning date nights again, leaving flowers on the table, surprising me with breakfast before work. He thought he was saving our marriage. He did not know I was the one tearing it apart. The more he tried, the more trapped I felt. One evening, after dinner, he told me he wanted us to take a weekend trip to the cabin we used to visit when we first got married. I agreed because I did not want him to sense how far gone I already was. But that night, as he spoke about rekindling our connection, my phone vibrated under the table. It was Liam. A short message, "I miss you. Same place tomorrow?" My heart pounded against my ribs. I excused myself, went to the bathroom, and stared at my reflection. My hands trembled as I typed back, "Yes." I hated myself for it, yet I could not stop. It was as if I had split into two different women, one who loved her husband, and one who craved the thrill of being wanted by someone else. The next day, I told Ethan I needed to run errands before our trip. He smiled and handed me his card, saying, "Get something nice for yourself." His trust was like salt on an open wound. I met Liam that afternoon at a quiet motel outside town. The moment he opened the door, everything else faded, the guilt, the fear, the lies. All that existed was the rush of heat and the reckless abandon that came with being desired. We were fire and gasoline, burning fast, burning bright, and destroying everything around us. Afterwards, as I lay there staring at the ceiling, the reality of what I was doing began to sink in. Liam turned to me and said, almost casually, "Do you ever think about leaving him?" That question hit me like a cold slap. I turned to face him, unsure if he meant it or was simply curious. "No," I said after a long silence. "I could never." He smirked. "Then what are we doing, Claire?" I did not have an answer. I just knew that whatever we were doing, it was wrong, and yet, I could not imagine stopping. When I got home, Ethan was on the couch watching an old movie we both loved. He looked up, smiled, and patted the seat beside him. I sat down, trying to act normal. He rested his head on my shoulder, and for the first time in months, I felt tears sting my eyes. The contrast between his warmth and my deceit was unbearable. That night, while he slept peacefully beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the walls close in. Every sound felt amplified, the ticking clock, the hum of the refrigerator, my own heartbeat echoing the word liar. I started imagining what would happen if he found out. How he would look at me. What he would say. How his love would turn into disgust. And the thought terrified me more than anything. But secrets have a way of surfacing, especially when you are careless enough to believe you are in control. A few weeks later, my worst fear began to unfold. Ethan came home earlier than usual one evening. I was in the shower, and my phone was on the bathroom counter. I had forgotten to silence it. When it buzzed, he saw the message flash on the screen, "I cannot stop thinking about you." When I came out wrapped in a towel, he was sitting on the bed, holding my phone in his hand. His face was pale, his eyes filled with something I had never seen before, not anger, not sadness, but a quiet kind of devastation that breaks you in ways shouting never could. He handed me the phone and said softly, "Who is he?" The room spun. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I tried to reach for him, but he stepped back. The silence between us was louder than any storm. That was the moment I realized, the life I had been living was over. The woman who had believed she could hide her sins had just been unmasked. Ethan did not say another word that night. He simply walked out of the bedroom, leaving me standing there in nothing but a towel and regret. The next morning, his side of the bed was empty, and his wedding ring was gone from the nightstand. My double life had finally collapsed, and I was the one buried under its ruins. The morning after Ethan walked out felt like waking up in a world that had lost all color. The house was silent, painfully silent. His shoes were gone from the doorway. His coffee mug, the one he used every morning, was missing from its usual spot on the counter. I could still smell the faint trace of his cologne in the bedroom, and it made my stomach twist. I sat on the edge of our bed, still wrapped in guilt, still clutching the phone that had destroyed everything. My mind raced through 1,000 thoughts, but none could change the reality. Ethan knew. He knew, and I had no idea where he went. I tried calling, but he did not answer. I sent messages, long ones filled with explanations that did not deserve to be read. Hours turned into days, and his silence became its own kind of punishment. Then, on the third day, he came back. When I heard the front door open, my heart leapt. I ran to meet him, but the look on his face froze me in place. His eyes were cold, empty. The kind of emptiness that comes after too much pain. He walked past me without a word, straight into the bedroom, and began pulling clothes out of the closet. "Ethan, please," I whispered, my voice trembling. He did not look at me. "Do not," he said, his tone sharp, cutting through the air. "Do not start with your excuses." I felt tears burning my eyes. "I am sorry," I said. "I made a mistake." I was lonely. He turned then, finally meeting my gaze. Lonely, he said, his voice breaking. I was out there every day working for us, trying to build something real, and you were, what? Looking for excitement? I could not speak. The shame was too heavy. He shook his head slowly. You had everything, Claire. Everything. And you threw it away for a man who probably cannot even spell loyalty. He zipped his bag, closed it, and walked past me again. I reached for his arm, desperate, trembling. Ethan, please, we can fix this. He stopped, but did not turn. No, he said quietly. You already chose what you wanted. And it was not me. Then he walked out, this time for good. I stood there frozen, watching the man who once promised forever disappear into the rain. The sound of the door closing behind him was the loudest silence I had ever heard. For days, I wandered through the house like a ghost. Every corner held a memory I could not escape. The kitchen where we shared midnight snacks. The living room where we danced barefoot after our wedding. The bed where we used to whisper dreams before sleep. Now it all felt like evidence of my betrayal. I called Liam that evening. He answered on the second ring. It happened, I said, my voice shaking. He found out. There was a long pause on the line. Then he said, you will be fine, Claire. These things happen. These things happen? I repeated, stunned. Look, you knew what this was, he said, his tone suddenly distant. I never promised anything more. My heart dropped. Are you serious? I think it is best we stop seeing each other, he said flatly. Take care of yourself. The call ended before I could respond. That was it. In the span of 1 week, I had lost everything, my marriage, my dignity, and the man I had ruined it all for. I sat in the dark for hours, listening to the sound of rain outside. It reminded me of the night it all began. The same rain that once hid our sin was now washing away everything I thought I could hold on to. In the days that followed, Ethan's lawyer sent me papers. Divorce papers. Seeing my name beside the word respondent made it real. I cried until my eyes burned. But tears cannot undo betrayal. They only remind you of how late your regret has arrived. I tried reaching out one last time. I wrote him a letter, no explanations, no excuses, just truth. I told him that I had loved him, that I had been foolish, that I would carry the guilt forever. I slipped the letter into his mailbox and drove away without looking back. Weeks passed. Seasons changed. I started seeing couples on the street, laughing, holding hands, living the life I had destroyed. I moved into a small apartment downtown, far from the neighborhood we once called home. Every morning, I woke up to an empty bed, a reminder of what I had done. People often say time heals all wounds. But time does not heal the kind of wound you inflict on someone who trusted you completely. Time just teaches you how to live with it. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear Ethan's voice in my head, the way he used to say my name, the way he used to laugh when I burned dinner, the quiet I love you before we fell asleep. Those memories do not fade, they haunt. I see Liam occasionally at the gym. He does not look at me. He pretends not to see me at all. And honestly, I prefer it that way. Because now, when I look at him, I do not see excitement or passion. I see the beginning of my own downfall. I have learned something the hardest way possible: passion fades, but consequences last. The thrill that feels so alive in the moment can turn into ashes before you even realize what you have lost. I chose pleasure over loyalty, and I lost his heart. And the worst part is, I deserve to.